You want to? Do you need an audio spike? You want a clap or a?
That'll be all right.
That'll give you a good audio spike to hit that on. Oh.
All right. You ready?
Ready when you are.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 99th episode of Concerned Dads Podcast. I am your host, Katie MK. My guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen, in his building, the comedian, the writer, the actor, the artist, Mr. Deece Casillas, ladies and gentlemen, on Concerned Dads Podcast.
What up, everyone? Thanks for having me, man.
Oh yeah, thanks for hosting at your crib.
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
make it easier than posting up remotely somewhere.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
Got the studio, might as well use it.
Yeah, it's a lot nicer. My crib's a studio apartment, and we got an editing suite and a grow tent and a bathroom and a kitchen. Man,
that's like all you need, though. That sounds like. That's a Spokane special right there.
Yeah, it is, bro. It really is, man. I'm trying to sell that lifestyle to kids.
I think Spokane bought in on that lifestyle in like '92. They're like, we are in, we're good. This is what we're doing forever.
Yeah, that's why moving up here wasn't a bad decision. I was like, nah, man, I could fuck with Spokane.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Spokane's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, should I be looking at the camera? I don't know where to look. Do I look at the camera? Is it
no,
viewers?
Cool.
Okay, all right. Just chill with it.
No, we're not live or anything.
Okay, all right. Yeah, there's we're not taking callers on the air.
Nah.
Caller number 5.
We actually tried to do that for the first 10 episodes or so.
Really?
Nobody called in.
Oh, man.
We'd get I think we had 25 people live once.
Yeah. Nobody.
Nah, it was hard, bro. That's why I'm like, man, pre-recording and uploading.
Yeah, live. You can even take phone. You can always take phone calls. And if no one calls in, just edit that part out. Just pretend like we're gonna cut to commercial.
Yeah. Yeah.
By Menon, and then you just move on.
No doubt. Okay, man. So I got to interview you a little bit when I was with Beers, Bongs, and Bullshit podcast.
Yeah.
And it was one of the fucking coolest interviews when I was over there, dude.
Right on. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. You talked about your writing process a little bit, and that was where I wanted to ask more questions.
Okay.
I signed up for your comedy class and everything.
Yeah.
But I remember giving Lyft rides to comedians in Portland when I was out there working, and it was just amazing to me. I'm like, dude, you're traveling, doing shows, getting paid to write jokes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm fucking sitting here starving my ass off trying to make music and write songs, you know what I mean? And it's like, this guy was just floating through town, had a place to stay, rocking tonight, tomorrow night, and the night after, and then I'm up to Seattle, you know what I mean? It just seemed like a really cool gig.
Yeah, I think, all I will say that, like, all those comics went through that time of like, I'm driving Lyft before and after my show and sleeping in this car because I'm out of town. Like there's they all go through that. So if they're at a point where they're just doing comedy, they've probably been doing it for at least 10 years.
Word. Yeah, and that's you're all good. I remember you saying that in the class, dude. So like that's how long you've been at it, man. Can you talk about what inspired you to start?
Bad parents, teenage angst, the usual. No, it's a weird, man. I've got this weird trajectory with comedy that's not the typical kind of flow most people go through, because most people do stand-up comedy. Just did stand-up comedy. I did stand-up comedy very 15 years ago was really when I started doing stand-up comedy, but then I went away from it for a long time and was doing comedy writing. I was writing on some shows. I was writing sketch comedy. I was doing
if you can give me some stories about those times too, because that I'm interested in that. Those classes in college where it was formatting for different places and TV or movie or stage and shit like that. I was like, oh fuck. So when you started mentioning that at Beers, I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's talk about something else.
It's tough. I know there's a lot of people there. It's tough to hone in. But how I started, kind of where I decided I loved comedy is when I was a kid, I just loved. So I used to what I used to do is as a kid, my dad would, if my dad was home by the time I was like supposed to go to bed, basically I would just like pretend to fall asleep on the floor of the living room, and my mom would just go to bed. And if my dad would get home, he would just like leave me on the floor while I was sleeping and just like start drinking on the sofa and then usually pass out. So then I could just stay up and watch TV,
Hell yeah.
So I would stay up all night when I was real young, and I'd watch like, they used to have this thing on the weekends, like Thursday, Friday, Saturdays on VH1 called Stand Up Spotlight.
Oh, okay.
And it was, this is going to blow your mind for anyone who's like a millennial or something, but like Rosie O'Donnell hosted these things because she used to be a stand up comic, dude.
Yeah.
And she was funny.
I remember
yeah.
A League of Her Own. She was
Right,
the,
yeah,
she was the
yeah.
comic relief in that
Right.
film, man.
Yeah, before she
Tommy.
was, an angry trucker.
Yeah.
She was like a cute, nice lesbian lady. I don't think people knew she was a lesbian yet, but and she was funny. And then like this other dude, Bobby Collins, hosted it, who was super funny. It was at the Ice House in Pasadena.
Oh, so it was nearby where you lived?
Yeah, actually not far from where I lived. I mean, at that time, it's all the way across. I mean, I was in Long Beach and Pasadena. I mean, it seemed like I was probably an hour and a half away, but it seemed like a life, like another country. Or like I would stay up and want to watch Saturday Night Live, so I would just do the same thing. I would just, my parents would get drunk or pass out and go to bed, and I would just stay up and watch these comedy shows that I probably shouldn't be watching.
Yeah, some of the jokes probably didn't make sense back then.
No,
too, but the laugh track made you crack up too, though. You know what I mean?
But I just remember watching these early stand-up comedy shows and just like loving it, and or Saturday Night Live, like one of the first jokes that I still remember to this day, like early joke that really hit for me and clicked for like a very simple setup punchline delivery joke was Norm Macdonald, rest in peace, my comedy hero who just died.
Yeah, he was a funny guy.
He was my favorite comic ever. I got to see him live probably like 10 or 12 times, luckily, in my lifetime.
Dope.
But he had this, when he was doing Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live, he had this bit where he goes, top 10 worst jobs in America just came in. Number 2 worst job in America, crack whore. First worst job in America, assistant crack whore. And I just remember laughing. So like, I'm like, that's fucking funny, like, cause that's that. And like something we talked about the other night in the class, like that's like that twist, of like you assume it's gonna have nothing, like what's worse than, it's gotta be worse than crack whore. Then you're like, oh, assistant crack whore. Like that's really funny. So things like that really like turned me on. But I had no idea how you do comedy. It's like I was a poor kid from the hood, like my parents they didn't give a shit about what I did. They weren't involved, and they didn't it just seemed like impossible. I had no idea how to even like cobble together. Like I didn't know you went to open mics or any of that shit,
Yeah.
But really I wanted to be a writer. Like I was always a writer.
Same, bro.
That was that's
Same.
I think that's the heart of so many artists is like
Yeah.
Even like Tupac, man, that guy he's got a book of poetry. I have it somewhere, but he's got a book of poetry and used to write these prose stories where you're like, just I think that's in a lot of people, and then they express it in other ways.
Yeah. I agree. I used to draw pictures a lot when I was a
Yeah,
kid.
I used to draw.
Yeah.
Yep, that's. I think I told you guys that story the other night about my grandma. That thing I wrote and drew and made my mom send to my grandma.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Sorry, let me fucking close that out. I'm fucking blowing up on Facebook over here. So like I was a writer. I mean, really, I wanted to write books and screenplays and comic books, and like that's what I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do. I mean, I just wrote and wrote. And I still have early stuff that I wrote. And then turbulent youth. I mean, I was in and out of jail all my teens into my early 20s.
Same friend.
Yeah.
Same friend.
So, and you're just fucking around. I'm partying. I'm doing drugs. I'm selling drugs. I'm in and out of jail. And it was like, this is a different world, I was involved in gangs and shit. So I'm like, it just was not a thing, You weren't thinking like, I'm gonna, fucking selling meth at 10 p.m. and I'm gonna go hit an open mic at 11. You know, you're like that shit. Like it just is it's whatever.
It's like, the pill on my T-shirt. I got those for $20. Holler at your boy.
Right? Yeah,
it was just normal back then.
Yeah, you might.
I think back like, fuck, you were a dumb shit, John.
Oh fuck, dude. I couldn't even. There's so much stuff that I can't even like. I don't even know if the statutes of limitations is passed where I can even talk about some shit. You know, I'm hesitant to even admit I've been to certain states. You know, because I'm like, I don't fucking know, man. I
might have a warrant out there.
Yeah, you ever been to Tennessee? Not that I can talk about. I don't know. Yeah, officially no. You know, it's but the. But then when I was like moved up Northwest for a bit. I was all over. I lived in Mexico for a while. I was all over kind of the West Coast, and then moved back to Long Beach kind of permanently. Obviously I don't live there now, but like I moved there to stay again, and I was there for a couple of years, and that's when I kind of like got away from bullshit and started straightening up my life.
So you were at home when you started focusing.
I got back home.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, and it's funny because I was actually living in the Northwest when I was going all over, but I was based out of the Northwest because I always tell people from Long Beach and then if they find out how to my history and like, oh, Long Beach, I'm like, actually funny. Most of that shit happened in other places. Like I'm the one guy that moved back to Long Beach to get away from gangs. You know, like that. It's such a.
If I moved back home, it would be hard for me to focus. Yeah. So that's cool.
When I first got back home, it was a little rough. Like I got caught up again, and then I completely kind of detached. But I like this bar I was going to. This place called Pete's at the Beach on PCH and 7th Street in Long Beach. I went there, and I used to hang out there. And then they started doing this open mic on like Tuesday nights. So I just go down to watch. And this dude. His name was Steve. I don't remember his last name. Steve something, but he was like just an older road comic guy that lived in Long Beach, and I'd hang after. Like we'd hang out after and we'd talk and bullshit. And he's like, "Man, you're really funny. You should do this. Have you ever thought of doing this?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, I never, because I'd written jokes and stuff, and like I wrote humor into my stories, and so finally he's like, "You got to do this next week," and I'm like, "Okay." I started doing open mics, and like it was fun. I liked it, but again, it was. Just, I didn't know what the next step was. There was no like, now you go to other open mics and here they are. And here's how you try to get on a show. And like that didn't. So, but I was pursuing writing more time. And then I published a book, about 12 years ago now.
Oh, it's like a comedy book?
No, it's actually a psychological thriller.
Shut up.
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
By you? Or you have a pseudonym?
No, I wrote it. Yeah, it's under my name.
Dude, it's on Amazon or something?
There's probably no, I don't know if there's any more. I mean, it was a limited print run. I don't know if there were a couple thousand printed.
Paperback.
Fuck,
I'll find one, bro.
And if you can find one, let me know, because it is. I know I still have a copies in a box somewhere, but they went out and funny because people always ask like where I go. Honestly, most of them I was marketing through. MySpace was still a thing back then. And I sold a shit ton through there. I would just like spam market people, and people would buy them.
Hell yeah, bro! If you sent me that message, I'd be like, "What? Hell yeah!"
So that was,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean,
my buddy Deacon Jones, he wrote a book. And,
I know. Deacon, yeah.
It's like I spent the dollars. You know what I mean? It was like for the digital download, it was only like $14.
Right.
So I'm like, fuck no, I'll fuck with you, bro.
What's up, y'all? It's yours truly, True Justice. Here to let you know that I just released a new project called Smile Now, Cry Later. 12 brand new tracks, recorded here in Spokane, mixed and mastered by my guy Moses Beats. Check it out. Smile Now, Cry Later, available on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Pandora, whatever you're bumping your music on. Go add that to your playlist, share it with your people. I appreciate the support. Smile Now, Cry Later.
Yeah, man, it was really encouraging to like these people that I didn't even know were supporting it, and like the feedback I got. And then I was writing. I started a website and was doing like a weekly serial and writing. I wrote another book that never got. Well, I've written like 4 books. Only I never published another one. I was kind of just following the money, and I started submitting to all these websites about writing articles, you know, and then I had some credentials.
Yeah.
And this,
He wrote a book.
That's
what I told Rick. I'm like, bro, that's a credential to
yeah,
me.
man.
Shit.
Like, you wrote a book. Here it is. I can send you a copy. I'll even sign it. You know,
Yeah.
it's not going to make it worth more, but I will sign it. And I found the only place I could find that were paying were comedy websites, and I'm like, well, I can write comedy. So I started writing comedy for these sites, and I was doing punch up on scripts for like shows and shit like that. I helped write some weird show. I don't know if it ever went anywhere. I just cashed the check. But it was some weird show about like a girl who got powers from her period, superpowers from her period.
What?
I don't remember. It was like Blood Moon or something. I don't know. I totally was like not. I was not emotionally invested in this project at all, but I'm just like, is this cash check gonna clear? Listen, I'm a cheap whore. I'm easily bought.
That's a good story though, because it is. It's like, man, following the loot too. It's like, nah, man, like I'm getting paid to write.
Well,
you know?
it's one of these weird things where I'm like, I've worked with so many. I've tried to do projects with people, and the one thing I found is like, I just have a different work ethic than most people. I don't know if it's better or worse. It may be like a crazy too much work ethic, but like,
I can dig it, man. I get pissed off when people don't show up or people don't want to fucking do it till it's done.
Yeah, man. Or like, I'm into that sacrifice too. Like, I understand that like I'm gonna put in a lot of time and work up front. A lot of fucking time and work and sacrifice, and I'm probably gonna miss some, you know, nights out and some, you know, a little bit of sleep. But the idea is like, I'm sacrificing now because in a couple years, it's everything's me working out, me doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And you know, realistically, from start to finish, it took me about 10 years or so, but man, I got the rest of my life ahead of me where I'm doing what I love and what I want to do. You got to start that
and
that
making
path.
making a living off of it too, dude. That's what I think is super dope.
Yeah.
You know, and what about like with the writing? So like, you submitted stuff to websites. Was there any TV or movie stuff where you like had to sit in a room full of guys?
No.
Because I always see like little situations like there it's a table of 5 or 6 writers and they have to fucking come up with an episode or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, that sounds hard, dude, especially if you only like 1 or 2 of those guys. You know what I mean?
Well,
and a couple of the ones that you don't like probably have higher rank or more say so with the producer or some shit, and it's
I've never done like the official writers room thing. I wrote a show with a couple guys, and by that I should say like I wrote a show while we hung out and they got drunk. Like we came up with some concepts and then they'd spitball a couple ideas. But I mean, I literally wrote 30 episodes of this show, like 30 half-hour episodes of this sitcom, like this comedy show we were going to film, and it just fizzled. Damn. Most of the stuff I did that like real projects, I was being subcontracted from. I have a cousin who works for MTV.
Oh, okay.
And I've never been credited for anything, but I've been paid.
That's good.
Which is fine for, you know, I don't need my name on the shit I've written on, but like, you would be surprised how much punch up is and jokes are written for reality TV shows.
Oh, dude, yeah. Those are the only auditions I could get when I lived in Portland were for reality TV. And then I'm just like, wait, it is fake.
Oh,
you guys
fake.
are sitting here coming up with the situation and trying to get us to play it up. And I just didn't feel like I was acting really. It felt like not, you know.
Yeah,
it didn't feel good. I only went to 3 or 4 of them and I didn't get the parts.
It's a weird genre. Yeah, it feels super disingenuous because it's worse than like a movie, because at least in a movie you know they're acting, but when you like, they're just essentially real people trying to lie to you for a whole show, and it's so it feels so weird.
That's how it felt, man. Just for the 10 or 15 minutes I'm auditioning in the pool hall, it's like me and another dude and a girl, and I'm just like, this doesn't feel right.
They're like,
okay.
Maybe if you said this, you're like, wait, that's not real, man. What do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would write situations, or I would write funny lines like, hey, they're going to like a skate park today and the guy has never skated. So like, can you maybe think of some ideas or like witty lines, and I would get paid for shit like that.
That's cool, man.
So that was, so I, shit like that.
Well, that's tight. They give you, a little bit of a situation for your premise or whatever,
Yeah, I mean, they'd know what they're doing, or like, the little testimonials where they sit there and like talk to the camera. Those would be filmed way later. So they're like, this is what happened. Like, what do you think? Or like they just give you the scenario and you're like, you just write a bunch of shit.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
So,
Yeah, that's tight. I was watching Alchemist on YouTube today talking about his start, and he was with DJ Muggs.
Yeah.
Doing a bunch of work, not getting credit, but getting paid for it. And he was like, looking back on it, he goes, if I was more business savvy, he goes, I probably wouldn't have done as much work. I would have questioned more and not been as passionate. So he's like, I'm glad I didn't care about the credit, because it got me more catalog in the end, man, and got me more relationships to work with people.
Yeah, that's 100%. I mean, that's part of like with comedy, man. I mean, like when people like, how do I do what you're doing? I'm like, do open mics 5 nights a week for the next 3 years, and if you haven't killed yourself, come back and talk to me. It's you really just have to be. I mean, you have to be prepared to. Like someone call you and be like, hey, do you want to drive 6 hours to do 5 minutes in front of 9 people in the back of a bowling alley and get paid in a hot dog? And you're like, yes, I do want to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's experience. And also, like, I feel like that little bit of like misery factor builds a lot of character,
suffering,
the suffering, but
like Boba Fett, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you fucking live in the Sarlacc pit. You gotta live in that Sarlacc pit of comedy for a couple of years and be digested before you get spit back out and can start making a little bit of money, but still probably have to pay for your own hotel.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I meant motel. I don't stay at places where the doors are on the inside of the building. That's a little highfalutin for my blood. Outside doors only. So
that's the difference between H&M.
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the. I think they've gotten a little fast and loose. There's now some hotels that used to be motels, but like a hotel chain just takes them over. Like Super 8 hotels will like take over an old Motel 6 or like Budget Inn. Yeah. And then they're like, well, we're just going to put our name on it. We're not going to, like, that's it.
Yeah, and we won't put that word in there.
Yeah. But
that's cool.
Yeah, you do that for a long time, and it's a networking thing. If so, you never know if you're going to meet another comic who's likes you and has like, hey, I can get you this gig, and or you connect. I mean, that's how a lot of things have worked out for me. I mean, that's how I've got a lot of work just when I started in Spokane doing shows when the comedy club opened here. My first gig there I got because I was there.
Somebody didn't show up or something?
Well, Carlos Mencia was headlining, and he showed up, and the club thought he was bringing his own host. Oh. He didn't bring his own host, but he wanted a host. So they're like, and no, I was the only guy that was like there that did comedy. And they're like, the manager's like, you're up, you're doing 10. And I'm like, okay,
Hell yeah, dude, that's cool, man.
So, and I got a lot of gigs that way. That's how I got to open for Whitney Cummings.
Showing up, dude, is important, man. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah, you just got to be there, be present, and meet people, and be a little self-aware though of your surroundings. But yeah, there's times where I was like almost doing stuff where I'm like, people are like, God, you're getting paid $25 for this show, and I'm like, yeah. I go, realistically, I should probably be paying them, for the like, in a weird way, like the experience I'm getting and the people I'm meeting and getting to be in front of 300 people, when I probably don't deserve that yet.
Dude,
So-
yeah. Like, man, I remember Yakima. It was the Huckleberry Jam, and it was at the Sun Dome.
That's the cutest name ever.
Dude,
That's
yeah.
the most adorable name
It was-
for it.
My Warm Springs homie Jamie put it on, but they had
That's-
Mr. Magic, Gemini, and then the blonde girl that was with Mr. Magic performing. I can't remember, but there was like 3 really big Mexican artists were headlining. There's like 3,500 people there,
Yeah.
and I got to go like 2 or 3 acts before Mr. Magic.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
it was like the biggest crowd ever. And it was my friend, and he knew I had music and a set and the CDs and merch. So it
There
was
you
like,
go.
show up. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I was like, cool, dude. And it like, dude, yeah. I feel like I wasn't that big of an artist, but I got to rock that big
Yeah,
of a
it
crowd
makes-
that one time. You know what I mean? Like,
Makes a
hell yeah.
difference, man.
Yeah.
And that takes you to that next level too, because you get that confidence boost. You know, you're
Yeah.
like shit, I did that, so I can do that again. You
Yeah,
know,
man.
and it's just incremental. You know, people. There's really no cutting the line in most art. I feel like you have to physically do your time and just put in the work. And if you do it long enough and hard enough, like, it'll pay off. I really think it's like that whole Malcolm, Gladwell says 10,000 hours, but I think it's like 10 years, man.
Yeah.
It's 1,000 hours a year. It just takes that time.
I agree. And dude, that's what I tell people too with writing songs. I'm like, man, I'm at like 7,500, but I'm not at 10,000 yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I got to get there. And with production, I'm fucking not even to 1,000 hours yet. You know?
Hey,
So
man,
it's like,
it's just
I gotta
doing
keep
it.
Getting there. Yeah.
You know, and the way I looked at it, I'm like, when I got the pieces, like when I had all the stones, all the rings that made Captain Planet and knew how they worked, like I started understanding like how gigs worked and open mics worked and the network, all the pieces of comedy. I was like, okay, now I can actively pursue this. And my thought was always like, the more I treat it like a job, the more it'll treat me like a job,
Mm-hmm.
So like, the more time and effort I put into it, the more professional I am with it. And like, it worked, like I know a lot of dudes who were super funny guys and they just have no work ethic. I know
Yeah.
guys that have been doing comedy for 8 years and can maybe string together 20 minutes of comedy, and you're like, bro, man, like, are you? And if you asked them, you want to do comedy for a living, they go, fuck yeah. I'm like, man, you don't. No, you don't. You don't. Because if you did, you'd be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, dude, what if you magically got an offer for $100K for an hour special? If you literally can't do that in a week, or the $100K is gone, like, fuck.
There's,
Don't you kick yourself in the balls over that? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, especially if you're doing it that long.
Yeah. Well, I mean, literally, it's the reason I quit drinking.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that on the podcast too, bro. I was like, man, because I've been drinking a lot less than I did when I was podcasting with those folks.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, it's called beers, bongs, and bullshit.
Yeah, no
you're bound
offense
to
to them.
Yeah,
You
you're
guys
bound to get high and drunk. It turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never gone to Molesty Island and not got my butthole touched. So I knew what I was in for.
Yeah, but like, so, dude, so you said you quit drinking for like 2 years.
It's been almost 3 years now.
Oh, okay.
It'll be 3 years in April.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's tight. And just mainly to more focus on the art, right?
That was it. I mean, it just, I mean, I'd been thinking about it for a while. And it's weird because I wasn't like, it wasn't one of those things. I mean, I drank a lot, bro. Like, I was the epitome of a functional alcoholic. Like, I was hardworking. I got all my shit done. Like, I wasn't getting in trouble with the law. It wasn't like ruining friendships.
Yeah.
But yeah, didn't have financial troubles because of drinking. Like, all the things that, like, the markers for being an alcoholic, like, weren't there. But I was drinking a shit ton every day.
Yeah.
I didn't drink during the day. I just drank at night. I wasn't like a drink all day, like that thing. But I knew guys like would wake up and literally first thing have to start hitting the vodka bottles, which is like, that sucks. But
What's up, everybody? It's yours truly, True Justice, asking y'all to go check out my brand new podcast, True Reviews and Interviews. It's available now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or you can check it out directly on Anchor. True Reviews and Interviews is a podcast where I discuss topics I'm passionate about, from music to movies to TV, general art, overall health and wellness, physical, financial, mental. I'll be having people join me at the table, over the phone interviews, discussing topics and diving into the perspectives and impacts of life. So hope you can check it out. True Reviews and Interviews available now.
I just had been thinking about it, and I was on the road a lot, and man, it was wearing me down. And I'm just thought, all right, my trajectory of comedy is like, it's going pretty well right now. Mm-hmm. So what can I do to help that besides keep working harder, writing more jokes, and just performing as much as I can? And I was kind of maxed on that. There's not, it's doing all that. So I go, well, maybe I should quit drinking. I'm like, if I put all the time, effort, and money I'm putting into drinking into my career, how much more can it go? What can't hurt? It's got to, it's time, effort, money. Like, those are three things I can invest that
dude, yeah.
So
that's the thing. I'll spend 3 or 4 hours just drinking, looking at the screen, listening to music. It's like, sometimes I can edit while I'm doing that, but I'm not doing as good a job as if I wasn't drinking,
sure,
you know
yeah.
I mean? So it like, yeah, good things, man. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. Yeah, man. And I quit, and it was the best decision of my life. Like, I don't miss it. I'm lucky that way. Like, I'm so stubborn that when I decide I'm doing something, like, there's no turning me back. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm like, I'm done drinking, it was done, and I never gonna drink, and it doesn't bother me. I can be in bars. It doesn't bother me. I think it definitely helped,
Hell yeah, dude. So, and then just being more clear-headed too, man. Like, you can feel it after that second week. It's like, whoa. Dude, I can fucking think. I can feel more emotion too, dude. You know what I mean?
That's weird. A weird one. That was the hardest part, is figuring out the feeling your emotions. Because I'd been drinking every day. I wasn't in jail since I was probably 12. You know. So there was some long stints in jail, but other than that, I'd been drinking literally almost every day. So as I developed, I never felt my feelings, because I always, as I you go through puberty and feelings change and hormones change, like, that was always masked by drugs and alcohol. So I, in my mid-30s, had to suddenly feel feelings for the first time, and that was a trip, homie. Like, I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, people do this shit every day. And it was just like, I was almost a little like manic for about a month, because you're just really trying to figure out, like, get your head straight,
Yeah, dude.
So, and I think that's where it's kind of that time where they say, like, around 90 days, like, a lot of people is usually when most people go back to drinking. I think that's when you're finally, like, dried out from alcohol, and you're finally getting there's like a euphoric state right after you dry out, after like a month or two, and then you hit these lows because you're all these emotions hit you, and it's real.
It is, dude. Totally. Yeah. For me too, it's like when I hit that 2-month stage, it's just like, fuck.
Yeah.
I really want to go grab a sixer right now.
Yeah, man.
And chill the fuck out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's to not feel what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
And it's not like extreme depression or sadness, but it's like, it's bothering me.
Sure.
And if I sip, it won't bother me.
Well, it's just, it's what your body's used to.
Yeah.
Your body just has that comfort, and it's just getting past that. And luckily I was able to, get through it, and it doesn't. I don't even think about it anymore, honestly.
That's tight, man.
So,
and then, dude, you talked about mushrooms a little bit too on the podcast last time. Bongs and bullshit. Can you mention that just a little bit during my interview?
Yeah, I am.
Because I was like, no way. I've been trying to get those guys to do acid with me forever.
They won't do acid with you, TJ.
Yeah.
Y'all motherfuckers, come on. On one, all y'all. How have none of you guys done acid? But what I will say, so like I I won't do acid anymore either. I've done a lot of acid in my life. I only fuck with mushrooms anymore. It's the only thing I want to do. And part of it is like I got sober completely 100% and like killed everything. And then I started going back into doing like microdosing mushrooms, and I still do that pretty regularly. Or I'll do like a real trip, every couple weeks. I'll just kind of sit at home and drink some tea and chill out, or go for a walk in the woods when it's summer. I'll do a lot in the summertime. But part of the reason I don't want to do acid anymore is because I have my homeostasis, like my mindset now and everything is like working really well.
Yeah.
It's all great.
Yeah.
So, acid may not hurt it. It may improve it or maybe great, but like there's also a chance it could shift something. I'm like, I'm doing good right now. Like, I don't want to fuck with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's cool. I mean, because that's every time I do it, it shifts better. And
yeah,
I'm just
and
I gain more understanding
and that could happen too. Like it could be
that's why I like
positive.
it so much. And I don't do it a lot, like maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Really?
But if I had more friends, I would do it more often. It's just I can't sit there and trip for that long by myself.
Yeah.
And I haven't figured out how to cut a micro dose of that size of piece of paper yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I try to just go to a concert or have a mission like, no, we're going to do this and go do that, man.
Also, the time, I feel like acid lasts for 8 to 10 hours, where mushrooms is like by 5 hours. I'm like, I know how much to take to be basically fine in 5 hours.
Yeah.
So that's also more manageable to me.
I agree. I've done mushrooms more times. So
yeah.
I don't do more than 1.5 grams now
Same.
for a concert.
Yeah, that's the most
That's
I'll
a
ever.
hard, nice trip.
Yeah. I'm usually like,
when guys are like, eat the whole 8, I'm like, fuck
no.
you, bro.
Dude, I ate a fucking quarter ounce of mushrooms one night, and I fucking was out of my mind. I don't remember a lot of the evening, but
I hate that, dude. When I realized that I'm gonna die and we're all gonna die,
yeah.
and it's hard to deal with on mushrooms, bro.
It's a
heavy
different world.
heavy on my head, bro.
When you take that heroic dose and you're like, oh, this is a weird life we're living here. Yeah, I got naked and jumped out the second-story window of my buddy's house and ran into the woods in the middle of Montana.
Fuck.
And at night, and they had to come find me.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, I was gone for hours, I guess. I was an adventure.
Damn, good you didn't get eaten by a bear,
dude,
bro.
Yeah, well, where we were, there's fucking bears out there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was deep in the Bitterroot. I don't know if you know where that is, like out past Stevensville, Hamilton, like Hamilton.
Dude,
area,
that's where my tribe is from, man.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
okay.
That's Purse tribe, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it's so. But I mean, yeah, I used to fuck with a lot of drugs. I used to acid a ton, dude. My buddy in California asked me one time because he's a pussy. Shout out to Javi, you're a pussy. He was so scared of drugs. He would drink, but that's it. And he goes, man, we found out I've done acid. He's like, man, you've done acid. I'm like, Javi, let me put it to you this way. I've eaten more hits of acid in my life than I have apples. And I really, really like apples.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah.
That's cool. That's cool, man.
But I'm happy with the kind of what I got now.
Yeah.
So.
And it seems like these days mushrooms are really a lot more available, dude. Like, it was pretty hard to find. It would only be like, it seemed like Halloween time was the only time.
Yeah.
And now it's like year round.
Yeah,
I run into a guy who has them. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I'll grab some.
It's like Christmas music. It's year round now.
Yeah,
let's fucking do this shit. I always have. I can always get mushrooms. And I frequently do. And yeah, it used to be. Yeah, it was always Halloween was when for some reason. But an acid seemed more plentiful. Now, maybe I just don't. Maybe just because that's what I'm tuned in on. It's just mushrooms. So it's also getting a lot more destigmatized and probably decriminalized in areas too, which is nice. So that's probably part of it also.
Yeah,
you know.
I agree, man. Yeah, let the folks trip. Let the folks trip balls, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'd all be better off.
Yes, everyone. Just try it once, man. You'll feel better afterwards, I'm telling you.
Yeah. I'm supposed to go to Peru in October.
Oh,
And I'm debating on whether I'm going to do ayahuasca or not.
like, dude, yeah, if you go to and have the guy coach you through it.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Chelsea Handler, like she did it, bro. That was a trip watching.
Dude, yeah.
And the one guy's just throwing up and fucking, he's losing it, and she's just milking it right. Bro, I was like, she's a champ. I want to hang
she's
out with her
fucking
sometime,
going
man.
strong. Yeah, I don't know. I was talking to my buddy the other night. He's done it down in Peru, and I'm debating on whether I want to. Part of me is curious, but part of me thinks that maybe I'm past the phase in life of that experience. But maybe that's part of my ego that needs to die in that experience. I don't know. It's a debate. It's not a hard no or a hard yes. I'm still trying to figure it out.
'Cause that's where those plants grow too, right?
Yeah.
Fuck, that's tough.
Yeah, it's
dude.
a whole shaman. It's a whole night and day thing. So I'm on the fence right now.
Dude, yeah. If they have like cannabis plants that grow out there, fucking get some seeds, bro.
Yeah, that good Peruvian.
Even if it's not,
shit.
bro, like you could breed it with something and just find different.
Yeah.
Everybody out here just running the same shit back with the same shit.
Yeah.
And the guys that are getting seeds from other places like that grow wild are coming up with some new, different fucking
nice
flavor type shit.
Yeah, I'll see if I can smuggle some back.
Yeah.
I'll swallow some the day before I leave and shit them out.
I had a homie that would buy weed at the store I worked at in Portland who was from Peru. He was a student, and I kept telling him, like, bro, when you go home for Christmas, bring some seeds. He's like, man, I don't know. I'm like, man, it's just seeds, bro. Just put them in your socks, man. But it was cool. Like, anybody who travels to a country where, because some countries it's fucking just grows wild and it's legal, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a big deal at all, so. Yeah,
I feel like a lot of places in South America might be that way.
Yeah.
So I might be stereotyping South America, but in my head, it's just I
don't ever see pictures of, like, the government's it's, like, always corrupt and, you know, always. And maybe it's just Hollywood TVs or Hollywood movies and shit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm excited to check it out, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to find out, report back. I'm going to find one of those little cocaine huts.
Yeah, dude. It'd be dope. And then the food, too. It's got to be awesome.
Oh, I've never been to South America. I go to Central America a lot. Costa Rica, Belize, like Honduras and all over Mexico and stuff. But I've never been to South America, so that'll be fun to hit that.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I got one more question.
Yeah,
I feel like we're close to an hour, but
we're at 41 minutes if you want to know. So
okay, cool.
So whatever you want to do.
Okay, the comic book stuff, man. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Like me writing comics.
Yeah,
so,
man. Because that's another. I'm like, I never considered that, but I know Illustuminati does stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I've met him. He's a good dude. So yeah, I'm a huge comic book nerd. I love comic books, as you can see in my actually, if you see the next room over, it's just full of shit. But I always want to write comic books. That's what I always wanted to do. And it's another thing. Like, I had no idea how you would ever do it, because especially when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, you know, before things went more global and whatever, back in the day, the comic book industry was only in New York. So like in my head, to work in comics, like, because Marvel physically had like an office and a bullpen, and like the writers and artists would go into the office and work. And that's how comic books were made a lot. I mean, there's people who worked remotely too, but mostly there was a lot of that. So like in my head, I'm like, I got to move to New York, and that's impossible, you know? So it just was it seemed like an impossible feat. As I got older and things changed, and, you know, internet opens up and there's more options. But then again, it's still like, basically, comic book companies are looking for new artists a lot. Mm-hmm. It's much harder because they can look at a portfolio and be like, you got it or you don't. Sitting and reading scripts is like, I don't know, man. Like, we have people who write scripts and they're selling, so like we don't really care that much. And so it's, whereas like a new talent, you can just look at art and be like, yeah, I can put you on something cool. So it's just tougher as a writer. And
I agree, man.
So
it's hard to attract visual shit when it's just words on paper.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of people don't take submissions for writing, and they'll take art submissions, but they don't even take writing submissions. So, but as things kind of opened up, I kind of found, and this was the route I took with comedy also, and writing and other things, and probably you experience with music. But essentially, I was like, now, and it's the same way. All the artists they get popping, get famous this way. They grind, they hustle, they make their own product, they get a following, and then someone picks them up. Because like nowadays, it's like comics who want to live in LA. I'm like, fucking why? Unless you want to be an actor, why? 20 years ago, people from the Tonight Show or writers or agents would go sit at the Comedy Store and watch and like look for talent. Now, they're not fucking going anywhere. Dude, they're at their house in Malibu, and if someone's talented, it'll show up on their fucking cell phone. Someone will text it. It'll show up on YouTube, whatever. The talent comes to them.
Yeah.
It's on TikTok. They're watching shit like that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so now it's like you got to make your product and then get it to people. Well, also challenging for a writer because that means I need an artist. So artists, I worked with a bunch of artists over the years, and every project fell apart. They would just never finish a project.
Sucks, man.
Yeah. So
shout out to TJ for doing graphics so quick and fast, man. He's the man.
Yeah. Trying to get someone to draw a 22-page comic book, and again, when there's no money in it for either of us, it's tough, And I've always told every artist I've worked with, I'm like, hey, we'll you draw it, I'll do the rest, promotion, etc. And like everything we get, we'll split 50-50, Finally, I kind of got something after all these years. I kind of got something in the works right now. I got it submitted to a publisher, a guy I met who is a publisher, and he actually solicited me for an idea.
That's cool.
He hit me up and he's like, "Hey, well," and this is a great story. This is going to be a good bookend for what we've been talking about, because, like I said earlier, you got to put in the work and earn it, right?
Yeah.
So this last month or two ago, I was down in California doing shows. I was going to go down there and do like 2 weeks of headlining these shows all across the Southland. And do you know who? You're familiar with Deadpool, right? The character Deadpool.
Oh yeah, I got a Deadpool costume. If you ever need
me
to show up for a birthday party or something,
I'm definitely going to remember that.
Yeah.
That's going to come in handy for a sketch or something.
Serious.
Yeah.
Me and On1 are going to do a Spider-Man Deadpool.
Oh,
one,
dope.
So,
yeah, I'm in.
Let us know.
I'm going to have to write something now.
Yeah.
But so the writer who co-created Deadpool, his name's Fabian Nicienza.
Okay.
He's written X-Men and a million things from Marvel and DC and whatever. You've read something he wrote, definitely. And he co-created Deadpool.
Tight.
Him and I kind of became friends over, through him doing my podcast, and, we keep in touch a little bit. And he knew I was going to be in LA for these weeks. And he's like, hey, my brother has this new comic book publishing company. Well, they've been around for a couple of years, but obviously the last few years have been hectic.
That's still pretty new, though, right?
Yeah,
because most of them been around 50 years,
right?
Or something, right?
Yeah. And he's like, so they're looking for people who will like volunteer for them at the LA Comic Con this year. Like, would you be able to while you're down there? And I'm like, I can Sunday during the day, like the last day of the con. Yeah. I'm like, that sounds dope. I'd love to hang out at a Comic Con. Like, I'll come down. I'll come up and work. Yeah, volunteer for you guys. Sure.
Yep.
So I went.
Good job on that too, because a lot of like, oh, I'm not getting paid. It's like, no, fucking volunteer, asshole. You're gonna meet some people.
Yeah, and see, this is the thing too, where in my head, it's one of those things where I'm like, I should be paying these people to be doing for this scenario. And I went and I helped, I volunteered, and here's the thing I didn't do, which I think this was helpful. Like, I never mentioned that I wanted to be in comics. I never mentioned that I was writing a comic. All I did is I was friendly. I worked hard for him, and then I went home. And a couple days later, the guy called me and he's like, "Hey, thanks again so much. Like, we never really got to talk. I'd love to like get to know you more and find out like what your aspirations are, what you want to do.
So he might have heard that you were writing comics from your buddy or something.
No, my buddy Fabian doesn't know.
Oh, okay.
His brother doesn't know.
That's
I
cool.
never told Fabian that, because like with these guys who are in comics that I get to know, like I try not to be like, hey, I'm becoming friends with you because I want something from you.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be like, hey, let's be people, and then eventually if it comes up or something happens, like, or down the road, maybe I'll mention it to you, but like that's not my intent. I'm not trying to use this friendship. I just want connections as people, and things that are meant to happen will happen.
Yeah.
And this dude calls me and we start talking. He's like, so what do you do comedy for a living, right? I go, yeah. And he goes, oh, so who writes your material? I'm like, well, I do. I write everything I do. He's like, oh, he's like, okay. He's like, do you write anything else? I'm like, well, I mean, honestly, I started as a writer. I wrote books. I've written for websites, written for shows, and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, will you ever consider writing a comic book? I go, well, now that you mentioned, I'm actually in the process of writing this 12-issue series right now. I've got the 12 issues plotted out. I've got 6 fully scripted. An artist is almost done with issue number 1. And we're kind of in the midst of it. And he's like, I'll tell you what. He's like, send it over to me, and I will talk to the publisher and our president of the company, and we'll see what we can do. If we like it, we'll see if we can get you some funding and see what we can do to help get this out there for you.
Tight, man.
So that was last week. Or a week ago, it was a week before Christmas. So I guess like 2 weeks. And then, who knows? Maybe it goes nowhere, but that's where it's at right now.
I bet it's smacking, man. You probably can't share too much on details of the story or anything, but I bet it's the shit. And I bet you'll get the deal, man. And then I don't know how it works. Maybe they'll just give you like the first run and then see how it goes. But maybe they'll be like, no, we want 3.
Here's the thing is, like, I am so confident in what I do that I know if I can get something out there, it's again like I found the pieces of comedy and knew how to do it. So once I have the pieces of something out there in comic books, I have no doubt I can do it again. It's just getting that first one done. So and honestly,
dude, and then they'll make a movie out of it. Yeah.
Well, this first story is pretty dope. I think it'd make a great movie.
Hell yeah.
But I want to say, like, not to get sappy, but like, this is the lesson I want to teach people, and like when I've tried to convey to people I work with over the years, is I literally got up at 6 a.m. from San Diego and drove to LA Convention Center and worked. I did not take a break. I was on my feet for 10 hours working for this company to volunteer for them for free. And never mentioned that I wanted to be in comics. I just wanted to know these people, and open that door and let the universe take the reins. And like, I think that is something a lot of people miss in this life, that they wouldn't take those steps, or if they did go there, they'd want to like, hey, by the way, and like push it on. Then it feels like you're using them. It's like,
it's not good manners. I feel like doing shit like that. And manners will take you places,
Well, I gotta say it. I mean, it all fell together. I mean, the fact the guy called me and asked me what I've, he had no idea.
Yeah.
So, things like that can happen, and it's all about being in the right place and putting in that work, and fucking making the sacrifice, man.
Yeah, suffering for your art, man.
Yeah.
For reals. I posted that on IG one time, like, if you never edited your own music video for 30 plus hours, don't tell me you suffer for your fucking art, man.
Yeah, man. You got, but you know what, it builds character.
It
builds character in a way, and also makes you so close to your art, and it makes you better at making art, because you're fully enveloped and invested. Like, if you just show up and like somebody else writes what the video's about, and then they film it, and then you never see it again until it's done, it's like, man, how much connection do you actually have to that thing you made? Like you're 20% of it at best at that point.
Man.
Like, I want to make something. I want to, from whole cloth. This is my thing. I want to make this and produce it. I want people to see my vision.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh,
that's dope, man. Yeah, fuck, dude. I hope that happens this year and we can see it.
I think one way or the other, we will see the first issue. No, I'm going to say one way or the other, whether it goes through this company or whether
You do it yourself.
whether they're not able to help, and I was planning on doing it myself, printing it myself, and shopping it around from there.
Mm-hmm.
So whether they're involved or not, it will be out, and sometime this year. The first issue is almost done. We got probably a couple more months until that's done, and then we're good to go.
Nice. Is there a place where people can go to find that? Just follow you on social media?
Follow me on social media. I'll update when it's done and when it's coming out. Definitely, that'll happen. What platform or however it comes out, even if we only see the first issue and I never get to do the rest, you'll see at least that one. So
Hell yeah.
there you go. Follow me at Deece.comedy. Deece spelled the Christian way, like in the Bible. .com, .comedy, or DeeceComedy.com has all my links and stuff. But yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. I feel like that's a good spot to wrap.
There you go. Oh, also listen to the Social Hour. New episodes every Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. Is there a website link for that?
Yeah, DeeceComedy.com or my Instagram and stuff too. That's all. It's all on my website. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for the interview, sir.
Thank you.
That was dope. I got to ask the questions I wanted to and get the full answer, man. So hell yeah, I'm happy. I should be able to edit this and upload it within a week. I'll
Cool.
send you I'll tag you in clips. Too,
Yeah,
on
let
YouTube
me know
shit.
and I'll help share.
Word. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this was episode 99 of Concerned Dads Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Kane. Our guest tonight, Deece Casillas. Follow him at DeeceComedy.com.
Yeah.
Deece.Casillas on Instagram.
Deece.comedy on Instagram also.
Deece.comedy on
Yeah.
Instagram also. All right, that was episode 99. Thank you guys. Later. Fuck yeah, dude.
All right.